Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. Tune in for a vibrant mix of fashion, finance, and life's essential foundations. Join us for expert interviews, insightful discussions, and empowering insights to elevate your lifestyle. From fashion trends to financial tips and personal growth strategies, we've got you covered. So grab your headphones and get ready to be inspired. Tune in now to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show and embark on this exciting journey with us.
Welcome back, everyone, here at the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Talk Show. And we were talking to our amazing Hollywood legend, Glenn Morshower. And Glenn, let's continue our conversation in regards to your years and years of experience in the acting industry. And you mentioned a couple of amazing people that you work with. And now, you are still filming, and you are also an inspiring speaker. So how did that come about with you, doing all these films and also speaking at the same time?
This is why I enjoy interviews like this, Marie, because I wouldn't have wanted to know that you were going to ask that question. It's a great question, but I wouldn't have wanted a scripted response. You know what I mean? Sit down and think about it and come up with this and that and cut and paste and remove this. No, it's a very, very easy answer. If it weren't for acting, I would never have become a speaker. And I'll tell you why. It isn't just because I trained to be in front of people. That's what made me a better speaker, but it's not what motivated me to get into speaking. What motivated me to get into speaking, and very few people know this, is that I had always, in all of my younger years as an actor, I had always been very strong at booking work. I had always had an elevated percentage for number of auditions gone out on per, and number of jobs booked from those auditions. And one day my agent in Hollywood called me in and said, "What are you doing out there? Because it's working like crazy. It's working." And I said, "Well, it's interesting. You should ask." And I explained to them that I have a very different approach to auditioning. And he said, "Is it something you could teach?" And this is how it all began. I was 25 years old at the time. So we're talking again, 41 years ago. And he said to me, "If you could teach this, we will make sure that your sessions are filled with actors," because they represented, I think, about 625 actors. Mm-hmm. So we can help you keep it on a steady rotation where we have a new crop of actors in, we will send them over to train with you. And what I was teaching was how to master the art of auditioning, not how to act, how to audition, specifically how to connect with people. And so I started doing this, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And I'm working live. I mean, this was long before the internet was even invented. And so many people would attend. He told me, my agent said, "Why don't you go on the road with this?" And I went on the road, and I was speaking all over the country. And one of the sessions was in Houston, Texas. And at the end of the session, I remember the theater space. It was 250 people in the most beautiful theater I had ever spoken at. The theater was at St. Thomas University in Houston. And this good old boy walks over to me. He sounded just like this. I'm from Texas, so this is what so many people say. He comes over and he says, "Glenn, my granddaughter told me if you were ever anywhere near Houston that I ought to come hear you speak." And I said, "Really?" He said, "Yes. And I'm not an actor. So when I'm driving over here tonight, I didn't know why she thought I should listen to you. No offense." And I said, "No offense taken." And he said, "But son, you weren't on," and he was about my age now, right? Mm-hmm. I would have been in my late, what was I, I would have been early 40s. And I had been teaching this program for many, many years, but it was only for actors. And then he said, "You weren't even talking about acting on that stage tonight. You were talking about love. You were talking about blessings. You were talking about God. You were talking about empowerment, loyalty, integrity, decency. And you spoke more on the subject of fun than any person I have ever listened to. Anybody. You talked about the importance of having fun in your life." I said, "Yeah." And he said, "And I was wondering if you might want to come speak to my folks at, and I'll leave the name of the company out of it, but he handed me a business card to ask me if I would come speak to his company. It's a big, well-known national company. And I looked at it and I said, well, the answer is yes. I wasn't intimidated by the offer. I thought it was beautiful. I was puzzled by it, but I said, the answer is yes. Tell me, how would you like me to change the program and modify it for you and for your company? And he goes, I don't want you to change anything. I want you to do exactly what you did up on that stage tonight. And if you do that, they're going to scoop you up like good ice cream. That's the way he spoke. And I said, that's beautiful. Well, that man changed my life. So ever since then, I've been teaching that one day, one night, one moment can change your life if you're available for it, if you're up for the change. And if you are open, receptive, responsive, and obedient, that's the key. Open, receptive, responsive, and obedient. If you are available, then people show up magnetically. That's what shows up in your life. And your future is handed to you because of your availability for it. It's not about wishing, wanting, or hoping. It's about being ready to receive it. And thank you, God, for that man, because he put me up in front of very large audiences, none of whom were actors. And I loved it because I was able to use all of my acting skills in this presentation. And it is officially my favorite thing to do, far more so than making films, far more so than doing television series, even though I still do both and I love it. There's nothing I love more than the fulfillment of making a difference in someone's life as a speaker.
Wow. Well, Glenn, I saw you over 10 years ago in front of thousands of people, and I heard you speak. And there were other actors in there. One guy was Ernie Hudson, and there's the guy from the movie Rudy, right? And you were the one that I was so attentive to because your words and your delivery is just so powerful that you really caught me 100%. And since then, I couldn't really, stop thinking about, who you are. And after 10 years, and I had this individual who's, needing some help from me. And the only thing I can think of was you, because you're the only one I can, think of, being the best speaker. And I know that you're training speakers now and actors. So how many people have you touched in terms of your training? And
I've lost count. Honestly, I have no idea what it is, but I'm so glad we're doing this right now, because in an interview, and especially an interview with a friend, an interview with a trusted friend, is you will go through things as you're sharing your story. And it occurs to me, I have never said ever what I'm about to say. I've never said it. And I've done certainly well over 1,000 interviews. That's not an exaggeration. We used to do them constantly, especially for 24 during what they call the, what do they used to call them? I know it's the press junket things that occur during sweeps, right? And May was the big month where we would do about 2 weeks of interviews, and we would hop like from interview to interview, and they literally they were about 15 to 20 feet apart. Okay. All the way around, and all day long you would do Honolulu, and then Miami, and then Chicago, and then Wisconsin, somewhere in Wisconsin, whatever. So here's what I just have this thought of, is in terms of a speaker, there are 3 kinds of speakers. This will never be taught anywhere else. This is just coming from my soul. The first type of speaker is the memorized speaker. I think those are the least effective. That is the person who has memorized everything they were going to say, which is exactly what this interview is not, right? Mm-hmm. So memorize everything they're going to say. And I mean every word, every pause, every intonation. It's all a program that is memorized. And or it depends on PowerPoint, right? So, well, what happens if your PowerPoint tanks? What happens if the PowerPoint fails? And you're so memorized in connection with it that now you've got a problem. That's speaker type number 1. Speaker type number 2 is the person who is there to talk about what they want to talk about. And that is the most common type. It has nothing to do with the audience. It's, this is my program, and by God, this is what I'm going to talk about. And then there's the third type. You want to guess what the third type is?
Someone that served?
Yes. Specifically, the third type, instead of saying, here's what I'm going to talk about, the third type looks and goes, what does the room need right now?
Yes.
What does the room need? Not what do I want to do? Not what have I memorized? What does the room need? What does it need to hear? What does it need to learn today? What will make this a better world beginning right here, right now? And then be open to be the vessel through which the messages travel. That to me, there is not a higher level of speaking. And I'm telling you, that is a dizzying concept to most people who would actually be afraid of it, because like, oh my God, but I would feel so naked up there without all of the words memorized and everything, which is the absence of trust. But if you're in trust and you're talking, then it's okay if you hit a point where you just pause and just look and make connection. And there you are over there. And now as I lock eyes with that woman over there in the fourth row, a thought occurs and I can be present in that thought, finish it, and then return. Wow. It is what I seek to teach as we work together, to teach at that level of trust, which is so extraordinary that you eliminate all competition because nobody is doing what you're doing. That's the beauty of it. And I will tell you, from an audience perspective, boy, oh boy, can they ever feel the difference. It's so different between someone who's all neatly memorized with everything they're going to say, and then all of a sudden, here comes this woman or this man that just is in trust and in flow with ease. And the audience goes, oh my God, this is like taking a spiritual bath. So.
Yeah, that is such awakening information.
I've never said that in an interview, my dear.
I am so grateful. But let me take a commercial break here, and I can.
We'll be right back after these words with the lovely Marie Waite.
Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show, where we talk about food, fashion, finance, and foundations of life. We are live on KCAA Radio Broadcasting Network. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Connect, and Building Solid Foundations.